coming through on Restream. There was a little, no, I'm live right now. I'm into this 11 seconds, 12 seconds. There we go. And now the lipstick's off my teeth. Anyways, today I'm very excited about our lesson because we're going to be working with solids and also neutrals. And I have a lot of experience in both of those. But before we get started, I have to show not a lot of my friends, because I don't have that many friends, but there are people who I know and love who are moving, and they are quilters. And we're not moving like throw it in the back of a pickup truck. We're like moving, going down to Arizona in one case, and then moving, going back to Rochester, upstate New York. And one such person that's going to Arizona is Mary Kay, who works with us. Mary Kay and her son Lucas have been pivotal in getting the website together, and also the newsletters that you guys get. I mean, just they do so much for us. And it's a fluke how Mary Kay and I came in each other's lives, but it was meant to be, destined. So she ended up winning a contest that P&B was putting on, where with one of my fabric lines way back in the day, and we had a contest of make a quilt, and then we picked the quilt that we liked the best, not even knowing who made it, where it was, whatever. And it was Mary Kay, and it was out of Sunnyvale. And Irwin Bear, the late Irwin Bear, and I were all going, yeah, we don't have to get on an airplane. Yeah. So that was the start of my relationship with Mary Kay. Then she came on board with TQS when it was just Lilo. And we said, Lilo, because everybody who works with us, it's kind of like all hands on deck. Okay. I mean, everybody has their area, but if somebody's in trouble, all hands on deck. And I said, Lilo, raise your hand when you can't take it anymore. And she raised her hand, and I'll never forget this. We were up in Seattle, John and I, probably was a super seminar. And I'm thinking, who have I met? Who do I know that is on steroids as a human being? And it was Mary Kay. And I don't mean that literally, I mean that figuratively. But she is an amazing person. And anyways, we all work together. We love each other. And Mary Kay is moving. So she put this up on her Facebook live, packing fabric. Okay. This isn't even half of her stuff, not even half of her fabric. And I will tell you right now, fabric is heavy. So Mary Kay, I know, like Lois told me this, and you told me this, they charge via weight. And then what the way it works now in real estate is you sell your place, but you don't even know where you're going to buy, because you need to get in that community. So now you got to store all this stuff, and it's just like a nightmare, which I will say this. I'm all unglued picking out new stuff for my sewing room, or how am I going to reconfigure it, etc. It's a beautiful space with too much wasted space. And I'm thinking, okay, if they can move a house, I can cope with a sewing room. And Lilo will be helping me, as well as Robin Maimoni. But now I'm thinking furniture and what I'm going to do. And I do have my flooring picked out, and it's what a lot of you have suggested. It is a very, 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 very super hard and thick vinyl. And it looks like the stone in the front of our house. So enough of that, right? Today, we are going to talk about, as I said, solids and neutrals. So let me get over to my PowerPoint. I realized I didn't do that before. So let me see what's going on over there before I switch. Oh, no, we're good. Okay. I have to share my screen. Get down there. Let me close PowerPoint. So we want to look at my screen. Oh, yeah, I put that up on Facebook today. I found that this morning, and John did this wonderful rendition of what my studio looks like at home. Somebody wrote me and said, I like what you're doing, but I sure like the in-studio shows better. Well, yeah, because look at this mess, right? Okay, come on, PowerPoint. There we go. I don't want to learn more. I want you to go bye-bye. And I'm going to go here. So clearly, the shows that we do in studio are much more sophisticated than what we're doing here. This is just something that started a year ago because of COVID, and it's kind of like we've turned into a guild, wouldn't you say? All right, so let's go to solids, and I'm going to go to full screen, and yay, I think we're good to go. I love working in solids, all right? They have good news and they have bad news. The good news is you're working in solids and you don't have to really consider size and scale and all that good stuff. But the bad news is you're only working in solids. Another good news is that your quilting is going to show like no tomorrow. So as soon as you dip over into the world of solids, you've opened up a plethora of possibilities. Oh, that's nice. Plethora of possibilities that you can do when it comes to your quilting. Now, the bad news with solids is that every single piecing error will show. All right. So just keep that in mind. Every single piecing error. So this is a sample that actually I pulled out of my closet and I was going to show you. I forgot it was in this PowerPoint. This is a sample that has light, medium, and dark in it. And sometimes when you go to look to solids, let's like look at the second row or maybe the top two left. Those jewel colors are the ones that just want to, that blue and that teal and turquoise, they want to just jump into your arms and go home with you. Whereas if you go to the upper right, there's that pale, pale blue. And that's like, ooh, there's not much to you. But as we learned earlier on in this whole little thing we're doing on fabric, you've got to have the light, mediums, dark, or it's not going to work. So this is an example of just darks with the exception of that yellow. Take your hand and put it over the yellow on your screen. Okay, that's what I'm doing right now. And you'll see that the whole thing goes flat. So yellow can often be a substitute for light, but that is clearly a before with those pastels running through and an after subtracting the yellow. This is a very early quilt I made. I mean, probably 35 years ago. And it's when I would sit at the quilt frame and just quilt and quilt and quilt and quilt. You can see how beautifully the quilting shows, and that's because it's on solids. I'd like to mention that the center is a double wreath, and I quilted it with a metallic. And it was when metallics, you bought it on the wall at House of Fabrics. It was like, it wasn't Prim Drips, but it was something like that. And it was not what we enjoy today with much more beautiful, sparkly threads. So just I'm throwing it as a sideline, if you're hand quilting something or machine quilting. I haven't gotten that good with machine quilting with metallics. It seems to want to eat it up, so I haven't, the machine seems to want to eat up the metallics, but I haven't really given it its fair process in learning. But metallic threads look beautiful on solids. Oh, here is the one that's in my sewing room right behind me that you guys look at. This is actually a cherry wood fabric. And Paula Reed is the person who quilted it. When I made this quilt, I asked Cherrywood, because I love those guys so much, do you have any new colors I need to enjoy and put into this quilt? And they sent me a bag of scraps, and that was like Christmas, all right? The other thing, too, I'm going to throw in is another 10 cents. I could have done this all on just black fabric, right? Just off of one bolt or one skew of cherry wood or regular black fabric. Look how much more interesting it is that it's got the grays and the different variations of the blacks. It's 10 times, in my humble opinion, it's 10 times more interesting. So I learned that 100 years ago from the late Roberta Horton when she was teaching Amish quilts. And it was go ahead and mix them all in there. It's just a lot more interesting. And I also want to mention, if you are working with hand dyes, I would strongly suggest that you pre-wash them, because the water, like, let's say up where cherry woods are made, I think it's Michigan. It's either, no, Wisconsin or Michigan, or anyways, up there. The water there is different than the water in my house. And so while the dye might run clear where it's made, where the fabric is dyed and made, it might not run clear in my neck of the woods. So I would strongly recommend, when you're working with hand dyes, I don't care who's done it, and Ricky will concur to this whole thing, test it, because you just don't know. But boy, I'll tell you, hand dyes are fabulous. Here's another little piece. What did I make this for? I think I made this for an auction for Alzheimer's, I think, and or Libby Lehman. There is a mixture of hand dyes, as well as, like, RJR or whatever. And on this, you can see it's straight line quilting. But that's a nice little piece. And it was little. I forgot I even had that. What a nice remembrance right here. Okay, now this is working with solids, but it's silks, all right? And silks they capture color the way a flat cotton just does not. I absolutely adore working in silks. In fact, we just taped a show when we were back in Texas about silks from different regions and countries, and it was fascinating, and how to work with them and how to play with them. Now, the thing with silks is they too can run just like cotton. And silks primarily, I would guess, are made not here. So you really want to test them for color fastness. I did, and I would wash them, okay? I would just wash them. And like that fuchsia, I can guarantee you is bad news. So I did not know that when I hand quilted a quilt, and I think it might be coming up, and it had those shots of fuchsias in it. It was basically beiges, neutrals, which we're going to talk about in a bit. And and I thought, oh my gosh, what if this thing gets dirty? I'll take it to the dry cleaner. I have been refused at the dry cleaner before because they can't guarantee things aren't going to run. And I didn't know that. And I know you shouldn't dry clean your quilts. I get all that. But if I need to wash this quilt or the other quilt I was just speaking of, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'll talk about how to work with silks when we're done with this. Oh, this is the one. This is the one I hand quilted. And you can see the little shot of blue, the little sticks that are in there with the red, and that red scares me, like at 12 o'clock. I don't know what's going to happen. I will tell you, I prepped the fabric with Quilter Select Appliquick Web, and I'll pull that out in a moment and show you when we're done here. And I hand quilted through this like it was butter. Absolutely fabulous. Okay, now, why is that in here? Let me go and escape. What are we doing here? Well, I thought I was going to be talking about neutrals. So let me go down to neutrals. All right. A wise teacher would go through these slides before she puts them up. So I love working in neutrals. I took a workshop from Mary Ellen Hopkins a zillion years ago, and I think I told this the other day, she was the one that said, every season, if there's one good neutral, you're lucky. So as we assess these, some of these neutrals are much better than others, but for the most part, if I squint my eyes, I can see the pattern. Probably my favorite in this group are the things that look like sand dollars. That I love that, and I realize it's because it's sparkle fabric, right? It's got that on top. To the right of that is a pretty little piece of fabric, but really it's not that exciting. I wouldn't turn it down at the quilt shop, but the one in the middle I just adore. So what this means as a fabric detective is that you go to your quilt shop and assess the neutrals and get yourself a half yard if you find a real winner. In fact, that sand dollar one is 1,000 years old. And if I were still in designing fabrics, I'd try and come up with something similar because that is just a winner chicken dinner. So let's take a look at some neutral quilts that I've made. What you'll see here, when you look at this, it's not just one kind of neutral. We're talking color gods again. You've got some of the neutrals that are in there that are grays, others that are taupes. I think this book was called Neutral Essentials, and it's way out of print, but oftentimes if you go to Amazon, you can get a used one for pretty cheap, and I believe this pattern is in there. This pattern is not in there. It didn't make the cut in the book, but I do have a pattern to it. It's really quite simple, absolutely beautiful. You can see the grays, you can see the taupes, you can see kind of the yellow neutrals. And it was really quite easy to put together. You can't lose with one of these with these neutrals quilts. This is a quilt that was made way back in the day. I was sitting in church and I got a tap on the shoulder, and I'm gonna not say names. And she said, "I'm gonna be a grandma for the first time." And I said, "Is that the good news or the bad news?" Because as far as I knew, that she had 4 boys and 1 kid was always in jail and nobody was married. Whatever. I don't. And I said, "Is that the good news or the bad news?" And she said, "Oh, it's the good news. Congratulations." And I turned around, and then she tapped me on my shoulder again and said, "Will you make a quilt?" And before I could scream out loud or whatever, the sermon started. And so I turned around and I thought, "Oh my gosh, no, I don't make quilts for people. I don't do that." And, and guess what the sermon was on? Sharing. Giving of your talents. So then they were from Mexico, and she wanted it to be embroidered. I don't do embroidery. Okay, so see, this is way back, okay? Never say never. You don't know. You should always try something new. And I said, okay. This is her calligraphy. She wanted it, the Spanish prayer in Spanish. And I said, all right, you do the calligraphy, I'll piece the background, and then her mom would do the embroidery, and then I'd make the quilt. Okay, now we're on to something. I loved that quilt, and it pained me to give it away, so I made it again. And so her payment to me was she recalligraphied it in English. Grandma re-embroidered it, and then I made it for me. Now, the prayer is, as you can read, his angels watching ever by your side, covered in peace and love as you in he abide. What I've done with this is when you are working with neutrals, you can kick it back and make it really, really soft. And that's happening because I'm primary in the middle. So my embroidery. So Estella's embroidery. Whoop, I'm supposed to say her name. Well, anyways, so her embroidery could show. I made sure the value was very soft, not a big change. And then it kicked up more as you went to the outside. I love that quilt. So here we have without white in it. And these are pretty good fabrics for the most part, I'd like to say. If I squint my eyes, they're all looking good, but you really need to get white in there. If you don't get white in there, it goes flat. And I will tell you, the one that looks like it's white, kind of right below center, actually has goats on it. And this is a fabric made by Carol Gresco back in Door County. But then let's take a look at the star one. The star, that's white, though it has stars on it. And then look at the sparkle fabric to the down right of the star one. These are fabulous fabrics. A lot of them were in my first example here, but you've got to get white in it. And let's look at, okay, the polka dots in the center left. Go to the right of that. I believe this was a Pat Campbell fabric, and what's so beautiful about this fabric is that it's what I call a bridge fabric. It's got the taupes, it has the grays, it's all there. Let's go to the upper left-hand corner. Same thing is going on there. That's a bridge fabric. Remember when we talked about that? And that's got grays, it's got taupes. That's jackpot fabric. That is one you would want to get a little bit more of because these, again, are just few and far between. So here we go, left and right. You can see the difference, right? These are so much fun. So actually, this is from my fabric line called Chirp. And when you're doing a fabric line, they have things called strike-offs, okay? And it's when it goes to the factory, they do like rough printing on it, and you look and you go, no, let's adjust this, let's adjust this, let's adjust this. This is probably one of my favorite fabrics I've ever been aligned with, and it was the hardest one to get right, sort of to get right. And it was the least selling one. I often, not often, periodically I call my fabric. I will never let this go. I love these stupid birds. I love, love, love. All right, so now I'm going to say adieu to that. I'm going to go up to, I'm going to close out PowerPoint, and I'm going to go up to my camera, and I'm going to show you some stuff, okay? First of all, let's do the solids thing again, okay? Let's do that. And I don't know if we're still on YouTube. We've been having a horrible time with YouTube. If for some reason it cuts out, John goes back and gets it all together as fast as he can. Okay, come on, little guy. Why aren't you? There we go. Oh, YouTube's still working. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so here's this thing right here, all right? I am going to take my hand and go across it like I asked you to do on your screen, and it goes flat, right? Because that's what we want right there. And this alone is a fairly unexciting print color. It's just, ugh, you know, but it needs it. It needs it. I'm gonna take out the yellow. We're still okay. We're still okay because we've got this. Take this out, and the thing's pretty darn boring. So then here is another little example. I always like to push it just a little bit more. So you guys know I love stripes and polka dots. This isn't polka dot. Well, it kind of is. It's cherries. But I thought, what if? What if I put in something else to make it more interesting? What if? Okay, so this is a little flange. I love the stripe. This is kind of fun. I like that. So speaking of that, I would like to show you silks. Let's talk about silks, all right? I don't know why sometimes we're on you. We don't understand what's going on. So this silks, you're working with solids, and I forgot I made this, but look, it's almost like it's um a neutral. It's kind of a bridge of both things we're doing today. I actually bought these in a box in Sisters, Oregon, and just look how it's catching the light. Okay, look at that. It's beautiful. Then this is the one I think I showed you way back. This was my dad's quilt for the exhibit A Better World. And this is silks, all right? And what I did is, let's go up to the stars. Then I fused on this silk organza, and then I just zigzagged around it with a clear monopoly thread. But then I went and I beaded it with sequins. I wasn't about to use my bedazzler because I was afraid I would melt the silk. But look at how that organza just lets the background show through. Let's go down to the anchor. See, there's the anchor. Whoops, there's the anchor. Look, it's just the shimmer of the whole thing is amazing. Then what I do is okay, I'm going to back up to the show where I demoed my silk ties with Youngmin. That morning when I taped that segment, my mom had just died the night before, and I'm lucky I got through it because my brain wasn't working. But what we did was I showed how I made this silk tie quilt, all right? But what I negated to say was the order in which I prepped it. I got these silk ties at a thrift shop for 50 cents each, all right? And so I don't know where these ties have been or whose neck they've been around, but I want to wash them, all right? So what I did, I got several queries about this, so I know I goofed up. And test it with one tie first. Test it with one tie. I threw the ties in the washing machine. I washed it. Then I deconstructed the tie, and then I cut it. Then I backed it with this fabric prep. Oh, this is Apliquick. I got the wrong stuff out. With I'm going, that doesn't feel right. It fabric prep Quilter Select does come in a little bag like this, or on the bolt if you're cray like me and use it like crazy. It's a super sheer interfacing. One side has a fusible and then the other side is not. So what I will do is before I cut into the silk pieces, whether it's a tie, whether it's silks, like Dupioni or whatever, I will back it with this and then cut into it. And then what happens is it won't fray all over the joint. If you don't do that, it's going to be a big fat mess. All right. So I want to go back and show you one other thing with neutrals. I went and I grabbed, here's some great neutrals. Okay, stripe. You know how I love my stripes, right? Okay. And then I have, this was kind of interesting, but this has a lot of yellow in it, and that kind of doesn't make me happy. And then this is a new color, sort of. Well, not that new because this cloth's older, but here you've got these three neutrals that are quite different. So how do you tie it together? Well, let's go back to that bird fabric right here. That's how you tie it together. You've got all these different, you've got taupe, you've got the gray in it, you've got this kind of yellow in it, and you've got this in it and the leaves. This is a bridge fabric. When I find something that's this good, I will probably get a yard, all right? Then this one I went cuckoo over, and this is an older piece. It's not as good as mine. I don't say so myself, but this is another piece. This is absolutely an exquisite piece of yardage. It's all little dots. Let me see if I can, it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. This actually came in colors too. And I wonder if the designer, I don't know who it is, because I probably have cut it off. Yeah. I wonder if it was the least selling in that collection too. Just, I don't get it. Because these fabrics are fabrics we need. All right. So John brought me in questions. Where did they go? Shoot. Flopping stuff. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. What is the name of the backing on the ties? Thank you. It's Quilters Select Fabric Prep. If you want it in a package, we sell it at TQS. If you want it in a bolt, contact me and I'll get you a person who can get it to you. All right. Fabric Prep. It's beautiful stuff. All right. Do you have to wash cherry woods in Minnesota? Minnesota. Yeah. Anytime you're dealing with a hand dyed, you need to do that because their water's different than my water. I couldn't think of Minnesota. Thank you. I'm actually having to go back to Wisconsin early June to take care of my mom's cremains. And whenever I go up there, it just feels so good. Ricky update. I know nothing. I know right now he is, I think he said it was 11 o'clock his time he's going in. And I think we're an hour different. I know nothing. I just pray he's in super competent hands. I know he will get it out on social media as soon as he can. And so what's happening, if you're unaware, is he had a quadruple bypass 20-something years ago, and things were starting to get funky again. And so they're putting in a camera and then hopefully just a stent, and then he'll be good as gold. But who knows? They've got to get in there and take a look. Thank you for asking. Oh, one person is using cherry wood and Color My World. Yay. Yay. So this is the one I was talking to earlier. Yay. So let me get into some questions and see if I see stuff here. Only 1 yard? I find that hard to believe, Penny says. I don't know. I'll tell you what, it depends. It depends on how good the fabric is. You coming in for another question?
It's one you may see.
Okay. How many sparkle fabrics should you use in a scrappy quilt proportionally? John just came. Yeah, that's a really good question. Whatever you want.
As many as makes it look.
John just gave me the answer. As many as it takes to make it look good. You will not find very many flat fabrics in my book. My sister makes them have for years. Okay, I don't know what that is. All right. So anyways, I'm having a ball doing this. I am going to talk to, I did a record with Lilo that somehow somebody got into my computer and deleted it, not naming names or anything. So what I am going to do is I'm going to redo a thing with her at 11 o'clock, which is a half hour from now. And on Friday, we're going to talk about how do you store things like your fusibles, like your interfacings and all that, because you got things on a roll, you've got this and that. And so we're going to re-record that, and we're going to do that on Friday. And as I look in my room, boy, I've got a lot of considerations, and I just keep Mary Kay and I keep Lois in my mind. If they can move a house, I can deal with this sewing room, right? Did I use Aplipops? I have used Aplipops. I use everything. The thing that I use probably the most so is Rosa's method, where I do the Apliquick. But those Aplipops are as slick as sliced bread, okay? You just get in. I've just gotten so good with Rosa's Apliquick that I can just do that with my eyes closed. So, and that's just what I'm comfortable with. But have I used Aplipops? Yes. Are they cool? Have I used Karen K. Buckley's? Yes. Are they cool? We are so lucky to have such great things at our fingertips nowadays. Is my chirp fabric available? Oh no, this was a long time ago. A long, I don't even know if this was chirp. I know I had one. What did we name this one? Oh, this one was Flutter. Sorry. Isn't that beautiful? It came in brown and I think a blue, the birds. I loved this fabric. I will hoard this fabric. And most fabric, I'm like, whatever. I'll find something better. No, I won't. So, okay. So we have to all hold a really good thought for Ricky. He's putting on a brave face, but it's not that brave. Okay. I'd be scared too. So right now, and if you're inclined, say a prayer, light a candle, and we'll see where this journey takes us. So thank you for caring so much about us. We so appreciate it. Pretty soon we're going to start shipping this here. Open your newsletters from us. And I wanted to show you something. Let's see. I'm going to leave you with this thought. Oh, wait. Okay, Ricky is done. No stent or surgery required. Kathy, how do you know this? How do you know this? That's fabulous. Yay! Okay, I don't know how you know this, but I'm guessing you know this. Oh, well. Okay, so I will see you Friday.